Listen deeply to the voice within your heart. Listen deeply to the truth you dare not speak aloud. Listen deeply to the wounded child that still lingers. It is through listening deeply that we are able to hear the truth beyond our noisy words. It is through listening deeply that we are able to access the feelings of fear, of insecurity, of shame and guilt, and the other uncomfortable things we tend to bury deep where they cannot hurt us. This weekend sits in the days of Shabbat Shuvah, the time between the Jewish high holy days of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Rosh Hashanah marks the Jewish New Year, celebrated with feasts of honey and apples, and the traditional blowing of the ceremonial horn, the shofar. The 10 days of repentance, as this time is called, is a time of remembering Jewish culture and tradition, engaging in traditional prayer and services and rituals, and a time of reflection and finding new directions as one does at the beginning of a new year. It is a time to consider how we may have harmed someone and to atone for those transgressions. It is a time when debts are forgiven, when injuries against people or property are healed, and when a fresh start is made again. In Rabbi Danya Ruttenberg's book on repentance and repair, making amends in an unapologetic world, she talks about how repentance and repair are actually far removed from apology or forgiveness. Repentance requires us to do self-examination and take stock of our actions and how they affect others. Repair begins when we change our behavior so that it stops doing harm and starts to do healing work. Apology and forgiveness only come after accountability and repair have happened. There is no tradition in Judaism of publicly proclaiming one's sins and begging forgiveness from a deity or from the injured party. That's not part of how Judaism works. In Christianity, there is doctrine that says that Jesus sacrificed his own life to redeem those who had sinned. He paid the bill for everyone else. But in Judaism, one must accept responsibility for what we do or don't do, and this requires reflection. And that reflection requires us to listen deeply to the secrets of our soul. We must listen deeply to the part of us that knows we have erred, we have behaved selfishly, we have injured or insulted someone. Our faith understands that we are born in goodness, in the image of a loving and creative force, and that we are here to share that love and support those who are in need healing or love or repair. And as such, this self-inventory is not about listing all of the reasons why we might be terrible people. No, it is about finding the parts of us that are keeping ourselves from being the best, most open, generous, loving, grace-filled people that we can be. Our human frailties, and we all have them, get in the way of that pursuit of spiritual self-actualization. And it is our work in our time on earth to keep that stuff to a minimum and replace whatever kind of spiritual divots we have caused in the world around us. The point of this narrative is not to appropriate Jewish culture into our Unitarian Universalist Sunday morning service, but to note that it is a part of the human existence to engage in self-reflection, individually and culturally as a collective. And self-reflection requires us to listen deeply to ourselves, to others, and to the wisdom of the universe. So how do you know when someone is listening deeply to what you are saying? Do they look at you, make eye contact? That's a little tricky for those who are neurospicy. Eye contact is hard. Perhaps they close their eyes so that they are not distracted by visual images. When I listen deeply, I tend to focus intently on the person I am listening to, usually focusing on their mouths, because I rely on lip reading a bit, and I will occasionally ask them to repeat something so I'm sure I understand what they're saying. Sometimes I will close my eyes and remain silent after the other person has spoken, to allow their words to settle into my brain and integrate into my personal body of knowledge and truth. When I am watching television, though, that's all very different. It's not really deep listening. I generally don't focus well on the image and sound coming from the electronic box in my living room. I often have my tablet out to play relatively mindless puzzles, games of geometric shapes and matching sets of things. That activity keeps the part of my brain busy that would normally interrupt things so that I can hear with my listening brain. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody else, but that's how it works in my head. Sometimes, just for fun, I am texting on my phone at the same time. I'm sure I look like I am paying adequate attention to absolutely nothing, but it is how my brain works, and everyone's brains are different. Not bad, not weird, just different. I feel deeply heard when someone is looking at my face so I can see their eyes and their responses to my words. I cannot always tell when something I say makes an impact or is understood. Standing here in the pulpit, I look out at your faces and you're all too far away, and my glasses are too out of date for me to be able to tell if you are absorbing my words or mentally making a grocery list. Don't worry if you sometimes make the list. I totally do that too. Not every sermon is inspiring or deeply meaningful to every person. I get it. I try my best, but it just can't be done. So I've been doing a lot of talking about listening, and I'm going to ask you now to listen deeply. Please get comfortable in your seats. You may want to close your eyes, do whatever it is that you do when you prepare to listen. Alex is going to come to the piano and prepare to perform as is instructed in the introduction of this piece. Some of you will know this piece and some of you will not. John Cage was an avant-garde composer, and this is one of perhaps the most controversial pieces of musical composition from the 20th century. It's called 433, and I will ring the bell. Oh, hell. I only hope that other ministers say, oh, Helen, from the pulpit. I will ring the bell at the piece's conclusion. Let us begin. Thank you, Alex.